YouTube. Welcome to Lizzie Pay Loves Books. I'm Elizabeth, and this is one of my July and August summer wrap-ups. For this video, I'm going to be showing you the nonfiction books that I read, and then a few other miscellaneous books from a variety of genres. One of the nonfiction books I read was for Booktubeathon, and it is Eat That Frog, 21 Great Ways to Stop Procrastinating and Get More Done in Less Time by Brian Tracy. I talked a little bit about this in my Booktubeathon wrap-up, but some of the principles that it teaches you in this book are to plan every day in advance, apply the 80-20 rule, put pressure on yourself, focus on key result areas, and prepare thoroughly before you begin. And those are just a few of the 21 great ways to stop procrastinating and get more done in less time. I do recommend this book. It's been out quite a while, but it has good sound principles that I think could help any of us. It is from 2001, and it's I think it was a great book. Another nonfiction book that I read this summer is a memoir, The Horse Boy, A Father's Quest to Heal His Son by Rupert Isaacson. Now, the reason I wanted to read this book is because I also have a daughter with autism. I'm always interested in reading other people's stories about their life with a family member with autism. So I was really intrigued by this book. I thought it was very well written. Now, as a parent of a child with autism, I can completely relate to the things, the choices that were made in this book. Now, were they the same choices I would make? No, of course not. We all have a different journey, and each child is different, and each parent is different. Our belief systems are different, but I really enjoyed the book, and it's a very good example of the love between family members and the lengths that you will go to make a better life for your child and for your family. The religious beliefs and the things that are brought up are not the same as mine in any way. I'm a Christian, and they were looking at like shamans and Buddhist healings and things like that. So I don't, the journey that I'm going through with my child is different than this. But can I understand what lengths you will go to help your child? Absolutely. And I thought it was a phenomenal book, very interesting to read. It almost reads like fiction because you want to know what happens next. It's very detailed, it's very vivid, exactly the descriptions of everything that the people they met, the people they saw, and the things they did were just beautifully written. So I thought this was a very good book, and I would definitely recommend it. Another book I read is the Screwtape Letters by C.S. Lewis. Now, I counted this on the Ultimate Reading Challenge as a book that scares you because I knew it had something to do with demons, and but yet I knew it was basically from a Christian perspective. So, but actually it's written from a demonic perspective. It's a book that Christians would want to read, and really it's a good book for anyone. But it is from the perspective of a demon who is writing to his nephew who is a demon, and they're talking about all the ways that they're going to try to win souls over to their side. So I thought it was very interesting, and it was a very enjoyable book to read. I kept having to remind myself, though, that when the demons talk about our Father, they're talking about the devil, and when they talk about the enemy, they're talking about God. So, it's a 180 from the perspective that I'm usually looking at and thinking of as a Christian, but it really does make you stop and think, and it makes you look at yourself and think, wow, have I listened to the demons in my head and done the things that they're trying to get this guy to do? So I thought it was an excellent book. It's very short. It's less than 100 pages, so I would recommend it. I read this also for TBR Takedown. So the next thing I read was two plays by Edward Albee. I had read The American Dream before. I was in a small production of it in college, and the Zoo Story I had never read. So I read this whole thing in one sitting, and the Zoo Story also met the challenge to read a play on my Ultimate Reading Challenge. I didn't particularly care for Zoo Story, and even American Dream is kind of out there, kind of off the wall. But I remember having a lot of fun doing the play in college, and it was fun to read it again. It's been sitting on my shelf forever, and it's not anything I'm going to get rid of because it's my college memories. But I thought, you know, if it's going to be sitting on my shelf, I need to read Zoo Story. Now, Zoo Story was, it was pretty crazy. It was about two men on a park bench, and one starts talking to the other, a complete stranger, and he just starts talking and asking him personal questions, kind of off the wall. Another book I read in August for Booktubeathon was Lilian Jackson Braun's Short and Tall Tales, Moose County Legends, collected by James McIntosh Quillerin. I've already talked about this in my Booktubeathon wrap-up. Basically, they're short stories that follow along with the characters in the Cat Who series by Lilian Jackson Braun. And it didn't blow me away, but they were very entertaining. And if you are a fan of that series, then you should pick up this book as well. The book I've read most recently, other than the Sunshine State Readers, is Gilead by Marilynne Robinson. This is a Pulitzer Prize winner for fiction, and it is the story of a preacher, an elderly preacher, who has a young wife and son. That he was widowed very early in life and went a lot of his adult being single, and then married a younger woman at a senior age, and then now he has a young wife and a young 7-year-old son, and his health is failing. So he basically writes a series of letters, or a journal, to his son because he knows he's not going to be around much longer to teach him the things that he wants to teach him. So there's that aspect, which I think is a wonderful idea for any of us. I think we should all write letters to our future descendants. I mean, that's basically what we're doing with scrapbooking, and I am a scrapbooker. We're basically giving a snapshot of our lives to future generations, and if there's anything we want to teach our children or share with our future generations, then write it down. But then also some of the other family friends and other family members, things come into play where he has to do some soul searching, and there's redemption, there's forgiveness, there's a lot of different emotions that come into play as he's writing this. It's very cathartic, I believe, to write something like this. The Reverend, he gets as much out of the writing, out of the process of writing, as his son is going to get from the reading. And it's just a very good book. I enjoyed it a lot. I had to read a Pulitzer for the 2015 Ultimate Reading Challenge. I looked at the list. I hadn't heard much about a good many of them. I wasn't interested in a lot of them, and some that I would be interested in were exceptionally long. I picked up The Color Purple, and it just made me sick to my stomach. I knew the content, and it's just, the reality of it is just so harsh that I couldn't make myself read it at that moment. And this is really a beautiful story, well written, and I enjoyed reading it, and I would recommend it to anyone. Another book I thoroughly enjoyed, this is The Postman by David Brin. I read this for TBR Takedown. You may have seen this movie. This has a very good movie adaptation. It does veer off. The end is quite different than this book. In fact, I kind of like the movie ending better than the book ending, but still a very enjoyable book. Published in 1985, and the setting from it's a futuristic setting from 1985, set in the 2009, 2010, something like that. It is a post-apocalyptic story of a man named Gordon who is just trying to survive. He's a traveler, and he uses some of his skills of entertainment in order to go from town to town. Puts on plays and different types of shows and entertainment in exchange for food. He stumbles across a postal truck and the decayed corpse of a postman that has been wrecked, and the brush is overgrown it so that it just hadn't been found in the 15 years since the since everything went wrong. I forget now exactly what happened to make everything go wrong, but in the last 14-15 years it has just been remained hidden. So he finds it, and he mainly is thinking to take the jacket for protection and the boots. So he takes the postman's jacket, boots, and hat, and he picks up one of the mail bags and begins to look through it. And so when he gets to the next town, he's not really thinking anything about it. He just thinks, well, he's got protection now from the weather. And when he gets to the next village, they see the postman's hat, and he kind of starts to make up a story about being a postman, and that he's come from, here he is, he's still acting, and he's come from the east, and he's come to Oregon, and his story goes that he is trying to establish mail routes in Oregon. Well, they believe him, and so then he has to continue to perpetuate the story until almost he starts to believe it himself, and then it starts to become true, and he is establishing mail routes in Oregon and basically rebuilding, and he's building hope in the people, and it's very good. It's a story of hope and rebirth of a country, but of course there are always going to be people who don't want to see that happen and who will fight against you, and so there's conflict. But I thought it was a very good book. It's a little slow at times, but I did enjoy reading it a lot. And one other book I read in July was an ebook that I read on my computer that was written by a friend of mine called Europa Journal by Jack Kessel, and I am going to do a separate review of that, but let me just tell you, I thought it was an excellent book. Also, I almost forgot to show you this one. Another book I'm currently reading is the Everything Organize Your Home book by Jason Rich. I am just trying to read a chapter or two here and there, just working my way through it gradually. It fulfills one of the challenges on the Ultimate Reading Challenge, and I thought it would be a good book. It was something I picked up at a book sale, and I enjoy reading organizing books. That's it for the nonfiction and miscellaneous books that I read in July and August. I have another video of the YA and middle grade books that I read this summer, and then another video of the romance and women's fiction books that I read over the summer. I also have a separate June wrap-up, so this video just contained books that I read in July and August. Then I have already started on the Sunshine State Readers, which is a list of 15 books that have been chosen by the Florida Media Specialist Organization. I'll put those in a separate wrap-up when I get done reading those. I guess that's it. Hope you're having a great day. Read a good book, and God bless you.